Yeah, I got it. Okay, sorry about that. So you're going to see there's some changes to the way we're asking our questions in the year one report. What we did was we tried to reduce the number of questions to make it less cumbersome. There was a lot of repetition on some of our questions. So in 2021, we really took a good look at it and made sure that we were asking really what we really needed to know about. So we've reduced it down to 7 questions. And so you're going to see there's some modifications under the section around narrative, and that we have made some modifications to the way that you talk about your project challenges, so that if there has been any issues around reopening or recovery, you can talk through some of that in the project challenges section. Under supplemental materials, we now only require 1 attachment, and we'll look at each of these forms during the webinar, but just know that under supplemental materials, you no longer have to attach, I think it was photos, logo, or credit, a proof of credit and things like that. Now it's only 1 attachment, and it's the letter thanking the supervisor for your district. We still have the budget. So the budget is still there, so you'll have to just kind of update us on where you're at with your project expenses and matching. And just a reminder, for some of you that may not know, we did have some redistricting that happened last year. So your district may have been affected. So you may want to make sure, double check that you're writing, if you're writing a letter to the supervisor, that you write it and make sure it's to the correct one. Okay, so we have tried to make it as easy as possible by giving you a checklist here. So this is what you're seeing. This list provides you kind of an outline of what the materials are that you'll need to locate and prepare before you begin your report. So the first thing is you're going to want to make sure you have a copy of your old contract and adjusted grant budget. You're going to need to refer back to that budget when you're kind of putting your expenses budget together. So if you have any issues locating that, let us know and we can send you the copy of the contract and budget. And then you're going to need your letter, a copy of the letter that you have sent to the Board of Supervisors for your district. If you haven't sent that letter yet, you still have time to do that. So just go ahead and get that together and make sure that we have a copy of that letter or email that you're sending them attached in the report form under supplemental materials. So you're going to want to work on that as you're getting ready to submit this report, if you haven't done so already. And then here on this at the bottom of this screen is you're seeing the link to look up your district in case you want to double check because there have been changes. Okay, I'm going to pause here because I think I see activity in the chat.
Some questions about checks that were issued.
Checks for invoices. Okay, we will probably want to hold that question for Q&A because it might be case by case, different scenarios. Is it basically just have the payments gone out? Yes, payments have all been processed. But if there's more detail to that question, we can talk about it during Q&A. Anything else in the chat?
That is all.
That is all. Okay, thanks, Julie. Okay, so When we're talking through kind of some of these deadlines, what we want to just make sure is that everybody's kind of on the same page, that the year one report is focusing on the process of implementing and measuring the goals of your project, the OGP project that you talked about in your application when you submitted that, a year ago. So you'll want to report on what you expected from this project, how you defined success, how you are defining success now, and how you're keeping track of your progress. You'll also want to report on some of the kind of activities that have happened so far. You can communicate on how you're reflecting on the progress there. And then under project challenges, you're going to want to provide any information about how you may have encountered some issues or any challenges around, maybe we know a lot of folks are finding challenges around reopening. So anything like that you want to kind of add in, you can add it there under project challenges, shifting performance schedules, partnerships, staffing changes that might have affected your timeline or deliverables. So know that in your expense budget, the items that you can list on that expense budget are any items or any expenses that you've incurred between July 1st, 2022, all the way out to June 30th, 2023. Even if you haven't spent out that money, if you've incurred that expense, you can list it on your project expenses budget. And then just a reminder that this is an annual requirement. So you're doing the year one report now, and then you're going to do another report for year two next May. And every year this will be due in June 1st. If there are any issues and you need to request a extension, please reach out. It's the email address is grants@arts.lacounty.gov if you need to request an extension. Okay. And I see something in the chat. So Julie, any questions?
One specific question about reporting performance, and then one asking for the difference between incurred and expended expenses.
Okay. So incurred means you've received an invoice, but you haven't paid it out yet. It's something that's pending that you will be paying out, between now and like the end of the cycle, but you still haven't paid that out yet. So that would be an incurred expense between July 1st and June 30th of 2023. The first question, do you want to just tell me what that question is, Julie, or do you want that person to unmute themselves?
I think that person should unmute. So Jocelyn Wilkinson.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Jocelyn.
Okay, thank you. Our grant contract states general operating support. So I'm just wondering, in terms of our reporting, if we should report on our general operating or on our program project for which we applied originally.
You're going to apply, you're going to basically talk us through how the general operating support you've received has allowed you to be able to execute what you talked about in the application.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you. That was just different contract language than we had.
Yes.
previously.
Yeah, we kind of, and just so everyone knows, and thank you for asking that, we really wanted to make sure that with these contracts, they were as flexible as we could make them. So in prior years, we would kind of put the project, the short project description into the contract. And once we, we're in pandemic, we said, let's make it just general operating support so that if there are any issues, anything happens, we don't have to completely change the contract language. So yeah, but we still kind of want to hear what you talked about in the application as your goals and the activities that you would be funding through this grant. Thank you, Jocelyn. Anything else, Julie, in the chat?
No, that was all
Great.
for now.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So let's talk through this contract. So you've hopefully either have located this contract from when you signed it last year. Hopefully you've got it. If you don't, again, let us know. We can send you the copy of it. Email us at grants@arts.lacounty.gov. The way that you're going to use this contract, this grant agreement, is you're going to need a couple things that you're seeing on this document. So you're going to need your vendor number, which you're going to see at like in the second paragraph. You're seeing here on the screen that it's highlighted where the vendor number would be located. So that you're going to need that vendor number for some of the pieces that you're going to be submitting. So that's where you can locate that vendor number, is in the grant agreement. You're going to see that the legal name is there as well, and the project scope, which again, we've really tried to make sure it's as flexible as possible. So you're going to see it says general operating support, but we really in the report want to hear about, your goals and your activities that you talked about in your application. So that's what you're going to focus your reporting on. So you do, again, have the flexibility to make modifications. You can modify your project expenses. They don't have to be exactly the same as what you proposed at the beginning when you were applying for this grant. We know there's going to be some changes. So feel free to kind of report out on how these adjustments have been made in the reporting form. And then the other thing that you're going to see in the grant agreement that you might need to look at is the amount that you were awarded, and a reminder that you get half of the award each year. And one of the requirements is that you have a matching source of funding. So that's where in the project expenses budget, you'll be able to list what the matching expenses were. Let's see. If you've had a change to your address that you need to let us know about. If you haven't done so already, I know some folks have let us know when there's been changes through the year, but if you haven't reported out and there's been a change to your address or your vendor number, anything like that, please make sure you let us know. And then we're also going to refer you to make sure you touch base with vendor services so that they have the most recent information. If there are changes, we don't share a database, right? So you're going to make any changes that you need to make with us. And then you're also going to make it with LA County Vendor Services, who are the folks kind of in charge of payments. And they're going to make sure that when they see requests for payment, that the vendor information is matching the contract information. If it doesn't match, they'll come back to us and say, hey, we can't write this check. They need to change this information under vendor services. So we will refer you to them if that's an issue. So again, you might need to refer back to your adjusted budget that you submitted with your contract, because in our matching expenses, in your project expenses budget table, we're going to be referring back to that adjusted budget. So in some cases, there have been modifications. That's totally okay. You just make those changes in this table, and then we'll know, where there's been some updates. If it's a completely different budget, like you originally were going to support someone's salary with that original application, and then now you're kind of going to just use the funding in a different way. Maybe you're going to use it for a series of, exhibits, or, just a completely different use of the funds. Then you would want to make sure that you touch base with us so that we can talk through if there is a need for an adjustment to the contract language. So the table, what you're showing here is what you spent both for from the request, the grant funding and the match funding in each of the years. I'm sorry, what you're looking at is how you're going to be spending the money from the adjusted budget. On the project expense table that you're going to submit, you're just telling us what it actually looked like when at the end of the year. Reminder that we do make sure that there is a cash match. So that's why we do ask you to submit that project expense table so that we can just double check that the funding from the organizational grant program was not more than 50% of the cost of the project. So that's part of the agreement. And so that's how we kind of verify that there was a match of at least $1 for every dollar of the grant award. Okay, so before I get into the online system, just want to make sure if there's any questions, I can pause here.
Just one person would like to know how one can move out of the emerging organization category to apply for more funding.
Okay, that's an interesting question. So the way that the request, the request amount is not actually based on what OGP budget category you're in. It's based on your annual budget. It's an algorithm. It's a mathematical formula on a sliding scale. So the smaller the budget, so it's a percent, right? You're requesting a percent of your budget. For the very small micro budget organizations, you can request like the amount equal to your annual budget. And then as you're growing, you request a smaller percentage. So as you grow your annual budget, your request amount will grow with that, but it will always be a percent of that number. And then there is a cap. So once you get to like a budget of like, $40 million, you're capped at a certain amount. You can't request more than, what you're capped at. So yeah, it is a sliding scale and it's based on annual budget, not the budget category that you're in. And the hope is that you're able through, receiving kind of this OGP program funding, that you're able to kind of leverage other sources of revenue. And as you're doing that, hopefully your annual budget will grow each year as you're growing your capacity, as you're able to kind of solidify some of your administrative things, you're able to kind of make space for fundraising and for partnerships and cultivating relationships with funders and sponsors. Hopefully that answers that question.
That was the only question.
Okay. All right, so when you're ready to start submitting your reports, you're going to do this in the online grant management system. So we have now started using the SurveyMonkey Apply grant management system. We've been using this since, I believe, 2020. So the URL to get in here is, again, apply-lacdac.smapply.io. You're seeing this here on the top of the screen. When you go to that page, you're going to see this login, the little box where you're going to punch in your email and password. And that's going to be the email and password that's associated with the account from when you applied for the grant. We know there might be some turnover, right? We know that you may have somebody reporting that was not the person that originally submitted the application. So if that is the case, we do have the ability on the back end to link the first account with the second account, and so that you have access to what was submitted with that application. It's kind of a two-step process. So if you need support to do that, Ann Jensen, who's on the line, she can help you do that. So feel free to email us if you aren't able to access your old information because you have a new person submitting the report. Some tips, general tips when you're submitting this. You're going to want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time so that you're not kind of stressing at the end. So I would suggest submitting this at least 5 days prior to the deadline. Again, if you need anyone to help you troubleshoot anything that's going on in there, email us. And if you just forgot your password, you can actually just click on the forgot your password link here under the password where you type it in. So that link should allow you to kind of just reset your password. If for any reason it doesn't work, you aren't able to get the email to reset the password, then you can email us again and we can help you troubleshoot that and update that password on the back end. Okay. So you can definitely log in and look at the reporting forms now. The report isn't due till June 1st, but if you want to take a look at it and just kind of see how the questions are asked in there, you can look in there and start to you know, make your notes. I would suggest for those narrative questions, maybe cutting and pasting from a Word document. So typing out your responses to those questions on a Word document, just to make sure that the word count, that you're within the word count, because you don't want to have paragraphs in there that are cut off. We do have those strict word counts. I think they're actually character counts. So with character counts, you have to make sure you're counting like spaces, period, like any grammatical symbols, paragraph spaces. All of that counts with character counts. So just making sure that you're working from a Word document so you have the right amount of characters and then you're just cutting and pasting into the report forms. Okay, so once you've logged in, you're going to see there is a card for this particular grant. So for any grant application you've submitted, there will be a card on your dashboard. This card for this specific application, the one that you're reporting on, it should say Manage Your Grant Round 1. That's the round that you're in. That's the stage that you're in for your grant cycle. So find the one that says OGP Manage Your Grant Round 1. Click into that card. I think it's Start. The button says Start. And then once you go into the Start, the dashboard, you're going to see the 3 forms that need to be submitted listed. There's 3, you're going to see 5, but there's 3 that are required parts of the report. There's 2 forms that are optional at the very top. Those are not part of the requirement. It's just if you want to submit something like a change of information or a project amendment request, then you would submit those. Otherwise, just ignore them, leave them blank, and you're just going to start by looking at the other three report forms, which are the year 1 final report narrative questions, the year 1 report matching expenses, and the year 1 supplemental materials. And you can start those in any order. Again, if you need to add a collaborator because you have somebody that's helping you work on this, you can actually add a collaborator. And then once you're kind of working through this, you don't have to submit everything all at once. You can actually save it and come back to it later. Once you are ready though to submit, you're going to complete the forms. Inside of the forms, you're going to click complete. I think it's save and complete. And then once you have all 3 of those completed, you're going to be able to click on the green submit button on the dashboard. Make sure that you click on that submit button on the dashboard, because otherwise we won't know you've completed everything. So the submit button is really how we will be notified that you're done. And then we can start to review the report. Oh, sorry. Okay. So this is what your expenses budget will look like. You're going to see there are 3 columns on this table. And to make it easier, we've auto-filled at the very top your award amount. So you can see what the full amount of your award is. And then obviously in your columns, the totals at the bottom will need to either match, or your year one match should be more than the OGP year one grant. Again, because it's a dollar for dollar match at the very least, if not, if in most cases, it'll be probably the match is more. So just know that there is validation in the table so that the math has to be correct, so that if year one match is not equal to or more than the year one grant total, it won't let you finish it. So under year one grant, you're showing what were the expenses, how did what did you pay for with OGP funding, and then matching expenses, what did you pay for with the matching source of revenue? They might not be the same thing. In some cases, like usually with salaries, it will be the same line item, but in some cases it might not be, and that's okay. I'll stop here for any questions.
Laureen O'Hara Ibeda had a specific question.
Okay, Maureen, do you want to unmute?
Or Laureen, I'm sorry.
Hey, good morning. I am looking in my portal and I do not have a matching budget section. I only have 3 items. I have change of information form, which is optional, the project amendment request form, year one, which is optional, year one report narrative questions, and then the year one supplemental materials, which is a thank you letter. But there's nothing here there's no space to enter a matching budget.
We'll have to look. We may have hidden it.
Okay.
So thank you for letting me know if we did hide it.
Well, thank you for hiding it.
We've been in talks about potentially getting rid of the first year project budget.
Yeah.
So it's that might be why you're not seeing it right now, is we hid it. So if we do decide to require it, then you'll see it again, probably later today.
I was like, it looks very nice and easy right now.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to make sure, is that it's as easy as possible, because it is the first year. And yeah, we know there's changes that happen and adjustments. So yeah, hopefully we can just get rid of it. But I want to show it to you in case you do need to.
Thank you. I was.
Thank you for asking that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Julie?
Yeah, let's see. Just one person said that they can only see year one report and year one supplemental.
Yeah. Expenses budget, I think, is hidden from view right now. So it's possible we may get rid of that as a requirement. But I'm going to look on the back end and make sure that we can actually do that. If so, then you only have 2 things to submit. All right. Yeah, so this is the bottom of the table. You would save, and then when you're done, mark it as complete, and then you would submit it in the dashboard. This is what the narrative questions look like. So you're going to see there are 7 questions here. They are under different categories. So the first category is going to be about your goals. The second category is about your progress. And then the third is any challenges. So again, there are word count, character counts, not word counts. There's character counts. So you have to be brief because they're small, you don't have a lot of space. And I think the briefly describe your OGP funded project, I think that's auto-filled for you. So I don't even think you need to type in anything in that one, number 1. Number 2, you will want to kind of elaborate on what were your short-term or long-term goals on this project. And then for the third question, you're talking about some of the outcomes that you're seeking, how you're measuring that progress. We've added a question about some of the internal and external steps that you've taken toward achieving your cultural equity and inclusion vision and values. So you want to make sure you briefly outline any steps that you've taken, any achievements or any challenges that you've encountered on this work. And then there's an optional question for you if you want to kind of tell us what your greatest success has been with this project so far, what impact you've had on your community or your organization. You can let us know there. And then obviously everyone will have challenges that they're facing. You know, we all know that there have been challenges with reopening and recovery here. So if you want to kind of let us know how you're, you know, what you've faced here with implementing this project. If you've had to make any project modifications, you can kind of elaborate on that. And then if you know for sure you're going to need a project amendment, then you would answer question 7 as a yes. And we would get back to you to talk through a project amendment. And just so you know, we do review these every year. We review the responses to these questions. We try to basically kind of see if we can glean any insight, right? Based on like any trends that we're seeing on the responses. And then where we can kind of incorporate either professional development or technical assistance programming through our professional development programming, we try to kind of respond to that. And then just for us to kind of understand where are the general shifts, where are the general challenges that we're seeing around nonprofit art sector work, so that we can be a better partner and supporter of the work that's happening. So these responses are very helpful for us to understand that. Okay, I'm hearing like a sound, so just a reminder, please make sure you've muted yourself. In the chat, is there any questions, Julie?
I believe Fatima has a specific question.
Okay.
Hello. Yes, I have the same question that the previous person asked in the chat. I show only 2 forms. I show year 1 report and year 1 supplemental. The other 2 are optional.
Yeah. So again, I think we might be getting rid of the project expense budget. I need to double check. So if that's the case, then don't worry about it. But I do need to make sure that it's okay for me to announce that we're getting rid of that budget before I confirm.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry about the confusion. Yeah, I didn't realize it wasn't showing it, and I think it's because we hit it.
And I have Jane wants to know if Discover Los Angeles is working or not.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for asking that question, Jane. So a quick update on Discover Los Angeles. We're no longer requiring that you post on that website. We encourage it. It's helpful because they are a partner of ours in our work. And so we do encourage grantees to post on that website, but it's not a requirement. It should work. And we did have a webinar last year with them. Might have been this year actually, where they kind of came to kind of visit on Zoom to talk through how to post on that website. And they gave us a guide and everything. So it's on our website. So if you need a link to that webpage, we can send it to you. Just let us know if you need that. And then we also have, if you need help with it because something's going on, they're not approving your event. I know I've heard some folks have tried to post and the event wasn't approved. We can contact them. Just let us know if there's something like that that's going on. Anything else?
No, that is all.
All right. Okay. So on the screen here, again, you're seeing this checklist of items that you would normally prepare for this reporting season. We have temporarily removed 2 of the items that would be normally required. So the proof of recognition, so that's the copy of the program brochure website with the screenshot of our logo on it. We have temporarily gotten rid of that. It probably will come back next year, but for now you don't need to submit that. And then also we used to request images of high quality images of activities or events that happen during the year. That's also not required for now. We will probably bring that back next year. So the only thing on this checklist you're going to need to make sure you have is that thank you letter to the Board of Supervisors or the supervisor that's supervising your district. And if you need, again, to find out what district that is, go to this lavote.gov website to find out. So once you're ready and you've completed everything, you're going to see all of your forms will have a green check mark on the dashboard. And you will want to make sure that you download a copy of what you're submitting. So you can do that by clicking on the, I think on the 3 dots, you can normally download everything that you've submitted. If you submit before you do that, you can go back, find the card for that particular grant and click into it and then click download under the 3 dots. Again, remember to click the green submit your application. Application is really just required forms. So know that when you're saying submit your application, you're saying submit my report here. To make sure that we know that you've submitted it, click on that green button. Okay, and then just a little bit about the thank you letter. I just remembered I didn't really talk through that. The thank you letter is a way for you to kind of be visible to the supervisors, right? We want to make sure that our Board of Supervisors understands the huge impact of the work that you all are doing on a day-to-day basis and how this funding is supporting the field, right? Right now, there is a motion being considered by the board to potentially increase the OGP program budget, but they need to hear from you in order for them to understand the impact. And I know that they do support OGP, but it is helpful for us. And that's why it's one of the requirements is so that you can kind of create a relationship with your elected officials, especially the ones that are funding these programs, right? These important programs. So that's why we do require that thank you letter as part of your reporting requirements. Okay. And then just last thing, we will, sorry, let me make sure I did, yeah, we will be auditing our reports. So basically what that means is we will go through and like randomly select like 10% of the submissions and just kind of come back to you in case we have more questions or we need to see proof of expenses. So just make sure you have kind of organize yourself and have your documents, backup documents, copies of council checks, anything like that, copies of invoices, signed contracts, in case we come back to you to say, hey, can you show us proof of your expenses? And then I'll stop here in case there's any questions.
Just one more question in the chat. Just more clarification on whether grantees need to post their events on Discover LA.
It's not a requirement. Yeah, it's not a requirement. We encourage you to do it, but it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement of the grant. So if you can get in there, that would be great. If you can't, you're not going to need to like do that as part of this process.
Those were all the questions in the chat.
All right, thanks, Julie. So here on this page, you're seeing a copy of the report form. This is the page, the web page where you can find it, the report form questions. So visit this web page if you want to kind of download that. And then other than that, I think we've come to the end. I know we may have some kind of questions that are more kind of nuanced about specific situations. So if those folks want to stay on the line and we can connect, let's do that. Everyone else, you're pretty much if you're ready to go, you can log off, and thank you for joining us. We will be sharing this recording, so know that in the next eBlast, you'll see this video in case you need to look back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just, in case there's any questions that anybody has, I'll just, I'll be on the line here.
I have a really basic
Oh, go ahead,
question.
Kelly.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for this morning. I'm having, and I'm afraid, I'm sorry to even ask this in public, but when I log in, I don't see the reporting section. I just see my profile and the programs available. What do you think? Then it says I don't have any available.
You don't see a thing that says manage your grant at all? You don't see a
No.
card? Then you
No.
might have logged in with the wrong account
Yeah,
information.
I'm wondering, but I'm trying to, I generally only have one, but
What organization is this?
pardon?
What organization?
It's Camera West.
Oh, Kelly, of course.
Hi.
Yeah, let me see if I can look it up quickly.
I have, my name is showing in the right-hand corner, so I'm logged in. But now,
Yeah,
let's see.
I'm
Now,
wondering is well, yeah, let me just. I should be able to find you.
we can do this offline if you need.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you guys. I know you
I
have a,
can just let you.
maybe it's under a different email address and I just don't know that. I have to go look in the.
It's a common thing. Yeah, sometimes we have folks that have more than one.
Yeah, I don't know why I do. But the page I have says, please note to begin a new application, click on the programs, opportunities for organizations. It's that page. And then under my applications.
What
nothing.
email are you using?
Kelly at Dance Camera West,
Okay.
which is, yeah, what I think it is, but I can log out and try my Gmail address, I guess. Anyway, I don't want to keep you guys, but I was thinking,
Oh, it's under Kelly Hargraves at Gmail.
yeah, damn it. Damn that Gmail address.
Definitely. If we can link it and switch them over.
Yeah,
to
that would be great. If you could switch it to Dance Camera West on your end, absolutely do. Now it's not
Okay,
the.
yeah. What I'll do is just invite you, and then you just have to accept the invitation under Dance Camera West.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Because of
Yeah,
course,
it's pretty easy to just link the accounts.
that would be
That's-
great.
That's one of the things we love about the system because we couldn't do that before. So it
Okay.
makes it a lot easier.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. Have fun on your next one and I'll talk to you all again soon.
Thanks, Kelly.
right.
Have a good one.
Day.
Does anybody else on the line have a question? We have like a 30-minute break now, so anything you need answered, it's your time. All right, sounds like there's no other questions, so I'm going to